Do you ever question why monsters exist?
My name is Christopher.
And my name is Owen.
Today we want to bring this question out of the shadows and ask.
Do we need monsters lurking our streets?
Today question is, why do monsters exist and do we need them in our society? What do they serve? My personal opinion is that we don't need them in our society. I mean, have you seen Ed Gein? He created furniture made out of skin. Do you really think we need that roaming a man like that in our society? They will only create more problems than solve. Some of these monsters' are minds are twisted or create gruesome crimes. Like we can't even comprehend what they're thinking. The only thing they would be good at is diminishing our overpopulation.
Yeah, I also agree with his statement because, once again, there's no reason for them to exist because all they do is cause terror. But even though we don't want them in our society, they're still gonna exist because there's no way we can prevent monsters from coming because of how human works. From how human work. A human could have childhood trauma, something bad to do with genetics, or have some type of brain damage. Yeah, those are just some of the reasons that monsters could be created, and there's nothing to prevent it.
First piece of evidence that explains the topic is the activity Miss Tagway did on her presentation on Ed Gein. He was an American serial killer with despicable thoughts. He was not mentally stable whatsoever. The man had trauma about his mother and did murders to fill with terrors. He made things out of flesh, and personally, I don't think we need a person like this in society.
Another example I'm gonna bring to the table is that me and Christopher learned about this dude named Jim Jones from a project we did a while back with for our teacher, and I know a lot about what he did to become a monster, but Christopher knows about his childhood upbringing, so I'm gonna pass on to Christopher to explain a little bit more about that.
So Jim Jones was a loser. He used to get bullied. Uh, Another thing is that he didn't like to be left alone. He had, like issues keeping people, and so he will keep people captive in his family's barn. Also used to make funerals, tiny funerals for like dead animals, and he had an obsession with Hitler, who had absolute power, and he probably played around with the thought of people who were blonde, blue eyes, the pinnacle of humanity.
Yeah,
And
and
I'll bring it back to Owen.
and I would say that those are huge key parts to what he became earlier to make him into a monster because as I said in the beginning, that childhood trauma could have or not trauma, but childhood ideas could have made people become monsters because as he grew, he played with the amount of power he had by creating a cult of people and trying to manipulate them in any way possible. Like he made people sign pieces of paper so he could print words into the paper and turn them into contracts. So he could use the contracts against people and say that they signed this and they have to follow the rules. And he another thing was that he always wanted people to stay with him. Whenever someone would try to leave him, he would, I guess, I wouldn't say overreact, but yeah, something like that. Cause he would hunt them down. He would make sure they were dead before they left him. And yeah, boom.
My personal growth, learning about this tactic, is that a lot of factors come to a person to become what they are. Factors like aggression, sexual gratification, and protecting themselves are one of many factors that can make a person a monster.
Yeah, I guess I don't really have any personal growth, but I have realizations on what makes a monster. Like Christopher said, all those examples, and there could be many more other examples, like just how humans work. they create the monsters. Like our society, I guess, could also create monsters, and there's not much we can do about it.
Today we have guests, and we wanted to ask about their opinion and if we need monsters in our society. Julius?
Hi. The question is, do we think that we need monsters in our society? And I believe, well, of course not. Why would we ever want them in our society? But I feel like the question we should be asking mostly is, what is a monster? What defines good from bad and bad to good? As in, like, say for example, you cross the street before the sign tells you to cross, right? To you, you're not doing anything wrong. There are no cars coming, and you are free to pass. There's nothing, there's nothing really wrong about it, but legally, it is a crime. Although you aren't hurting anybody, you aren't putting anyone in danger. You're just simply crossing the street. But that's bad. That's illegal. It's a few seconds before he says you can walk. We base our lives around these thoughts that something is good and something is bad, and when we don't realize that our laws and our rules in life are nothing more than just human thoughts, just existing, just thoughts on thoughts put on top of each other throughout the years, and no one really ever questions it because it's natural. It's what we were taught. And this brings up my main topic of what I want to talk about: human thought. Human thought is what compels everything else. It's what moves our emotions. It's what moves our actions, and it's what moves what we say and how we say it. We don't really ever take the time to really break down what human thought is because it's something so beyond what we can really understand other than the concept that it's just a voice in our head that, relays what we're thinking. Monsters in this world are beyond our control because they are generated off of the negative energy that you give to another person. And hate is more like a substance rather than an emotion. You can't get rid of it, but you can always pass it on to another object or another being. So, monsters, do we really need them in our society? Well, do we have a choice? That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Julius. We have another guest, Cecilia. Would you like to tell us about your opinion on monsters?
Yes. Actually, I like to discuss a little bit on the question. I seem to find the question a little bit bland, as in it lacks information. You never really specify what a monster identified as, if, what is an excuse of not a monster, and what is an excuse of a monster. Does does it matter if the monster still contributes to society? Is that what I'm being asked? You're saying I have to reason whether even if this person participates, even though they're evil, should I still accept them? It just seemed like the question's a little vague, but I will still proceed to answer it anyway. We need monsters in our society. Well, there are monsters. Monsters will be classified as selfish, I presume. So, why would we need someone selfish in a world when we need to help others?
I would like to thank you all for coming by and listening to this podcast. And I would also like to greatly appreciate the two people for coming in and voicing their opinion on the topic. It really gives the community extra, I guess, examples of the topic, extra opinions on the topic. And unless Christopher has anything else to say, we're done here.
Oh, I just wanted to thank them and thank you for listening to this podcast.
All right, adios.